morning. Good morning and welcome to the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Bonnie Rose. It's great to see you here this morning. Let us stand up. And so let us continue to breathe deeply and relax our bodies, settling into our seats and settling into a state of mind that is open and receptive, remembering the purity of who we are. As we relax and let go, let us listen to the words of our sacred reading.
From Whatever Arises, Love That by Matt Kahn. For many people, it's easy to judge uncomfortable feelings that always seem to erupt at the most inconvenient moments. The more such feelings are triggered, the more effortless it becomes to interpret each surge of emotional reaction as an ongoing problem that has to be fixed. While a path or healing process can offer you momentary relief through reframing or changes of state, the feeling inevitably comes back until you are able to acknowledge each reaction as evidence of a deeper journey already in progress. A feeling only feels like a barrier for as long as you refuse to feel it. As the feeling is invited to be felt, a willingness to experience each moment as an opportunity to heal clears out layers of cellular memory to make room for the emergence of heart-centered consciousness. Your highest wisdom invites you to see every reaction as a moment of spiritual activation. Through the welcoming of any feeling, cellular debris is released out of your energy field. Since each individual is an expression of the universe, the cellular debris released out of one person simultaneously assists the healing of all. That is why loving what arises is the single most important way to fulfill your divine destiny. One heartfelt embrace at a time, you are able to welcome the spontaneous healing that shifts your reality and supports the evolution of every being, all at once.
And so we go within and focus on the inner journey of remembrance, knowing that it doesn't matter how many times we've forgotten who we are, how many times we've felt like we've failed, or how many times we have felt unworthy. As we join together now in the spiritual community, we lift each other up into the knowing of our divine inheritance, into the knowing of the power and the presence of the living God that moves through us, always. But now we attend to it. We turn our attention to it, and we allow the awareness of the I Am presence, which is another name for God, another name for love. We allow that awareness to fill us so that we become radiant. And this radiant blesses the entire room. And this radiance reaches beyond the walls of this sanctuary and blesses all beings everywhere. Let us sing together, I am remembering who I am. And we send love to the silence. Send love to ourselves. Send love to those sitting in this room. Send love to all beings everywhere. in the spirit of that love, let us breathe in deeply. And then exhale, opening our eyes in love with what is, as it is, and so it is.
Gray skies hanging over me, clouding my serenity. Winds of change are blowing everything around. But I know just what to do to achieve a different view. Following my heart, it never lets me down. Taking the surest road can lead to nowhere. Singing the same old song can leave you flat. But this led to that. I am where I'm at, 'cause the spirit deep within is getting comfortable in my skin. Getting comfortable in my skin. Looking back at where I've been, only to begin again. Life has come full circle in this blessed dance. And I know the future brings only just the best of things. Spirit at the helm, I leave nothing to chance. And I won't face my past with indecision. And I won't worry what I might have missed, 'cause that led to this, and this state of bliss is the spirit deep within, getting comfortable in my skin, getting comfortable in my skin. Feel it move me, feel it breathe me. Open your eyes, let the spirit see me. I myself was lost, but now I know. Taking the surest road can lead to nowhere. Singing the same old song can leave you flat, 'cause this led to that. I am where I'm at, 'cause the spirit deep within is getting comfortable in my skin, getting comfortable in my skin. So take a look, go on, look again. You'll see the spirit is comfortable in my skin.
That made my day. That was awesome, right? Thank you all. That's great. Okay, so this morning I'm speaking about Radiance masquerading in form. Radiance masquerading in form. And I think the implication is that we and everything else are radiance masquerading in form. I struggled a little bit with that talk title, and I'm going to change the talk title because I have free will. But I'll get to that eventually. Before I do that, though, I want to talk to you about some of the radiance that's happening in the center, some of the behind-the-scenes things that some of you may not know about. But this has been quite a year. Many of you know that we live in this, or we work in this, we worship in this beautiful historic building that when I first started here, I didn't even know that the minister would have responsibility for a building, and it was a rude awakening when I found out that we have a historical building with lots of things going on. And then I had this resentment for the building for years, and then one day the roof caved in, and I started calling her Leaky Grandma. And ever since then, we've been referring to the building as Grandma, and it's made it much easier to care for her because Grandma is a member of the congregation. Yes. Right? Yes, she is. She's very important. Sometimes people say, well, shouldn't we just maybe sell Grandma? No, we are not selling Grandma. She's too important to us. Don't take that out of context, if you would. So anyway, some of the things that are happening is that we've been having this epic process of resurfacing the ramp for wheelchairs and disabled access, and also the steps. You may have noticed that the steps have been resurfaced, and they're not quite done yet. It's been going on for about 2 years, but it's about to be done. Another thing that we're doing, and I just looked at some old emails, and I think the original emails around this were around 2015, is that we're about to install drought-friendly landscaping in front of the church, which is awesome, right? Yeah. That's happening in a matter of weeks. I believe it's going to start on June 20th, and we have had a lot of wonderful people guiding all of these processes and a lot of wonderful volunteers that are stepping up to help us with them as well. Another thing that's happening, which will be a relief to many of you, is that we are redoing the sound system. Yay! You know, one of our board members of us, who's been here much longer than I have, said that she looked at some old board minutes from about 25 years ago, and they were getting bids on the sound system 25 years ago. And there have been incremental changes, but we're about to do a major renovation on the sound system so that everybody can hear and that the choir will sound great. We're doing it in phases, but hopefully that will happen very soon. And then the last thing that we're doing, so we have this beautiful grandma, you know, all this great stuff, this great landscaping, this great sound system we're putting in. We just had it painted a couple of years ago. It's not going to mean much if it all burns down because of faulty wiring. So we're getting some electrical things fixed as well, which is wonderful. And we've had ongoing help with that, and we're about to do a big job with that. So it's all coming into being like within this month or the next month, and it's quite chaotic. But the way that I'm looking at it, and I'm hoping that we can use this as a metaphor, is that grandma, or the effects of our life, or the material of our life, whether it's your job or your work or your body or the place where you worship, whatever it is, it's all spirit coming into form. And I have to say that the congregation has been so incredibly generous, and we've been working through these processes in God's time with a tremendous amount of integrity and a tremendous amount of commitment and a tremendous amount of love. So all of this radiance is coming into being, into physical being in the church in new ways, some seen and some unseen. And the same thing is true for your life, for the physical structures of your life. Those things are important, and we don't want to overlook those things just be all up in our head and our hearts all the time. The physical stuff of life is important as well, and it is particularly important when we know that anything physical in our life can be used as a spiritual tool to help us become more filled with light and filled with grace and power and love. Which brings me to the next thing I want to say about what's going on behind the scenes at this center. You know, we're doing all of these things to help grandma be healthy and whole, help our building be healthy and whole. And what it feels to me is like we are building a chalice for the philosophy and for the theology and for the greater expansion of love that I know is happening here. You know, when I look back on this past year, particularly when I consider some of the guest speakers and some of the classes that we've had this past year, some of the evening events, you know, I think some people think that I sit down at the end of the year and I make a list of who's going to be speaking, and then God honors those plans. No, not at all. I sometimes make a list, but usually it's very random how things happen. But when I look back on what has happened this year, it seems like there has been a pattern emerging, and I'd like to share that with you. We started this year with Dr. Goswami, who is an Indian physicist, a quantum physicist, who really is doing a lot to change the view of science and material science versus quantum science. Now, the thing about Dr. Goswami is that, like, nobody can understand him, right? You know, I was reluctant to bring him over because, you know, A, he's talking about quantum physics, and B, he's doing it with a very strong Indian accent. And we did talk about the accent. We're like, Dr. Goswami, you know you have an accent. He's like, I know I do. Thank you very much. I don't. Anyway. But what I got from Dr. Goswami is just a reaffirmation of what we teach in this philosophy, in that we tend to try and make matter supreme when really consciousness is where it's at. Matter is important, but consciousness becomes matter. Everything is formed out of consciousness. We could also say that everything is formed out of love, because consciousness is love. And one of the things that Dr. Goswami said in his presentation was that light is the ultimate reality. So everything is formed out of light. Everything is formed out of radiance. So that was kind of part one of our mystical journey. And then a couple of nights ago, we had Tim Braun come, who spoke to, he's a mystic and a psychic. Well, he doesn't really call himself a psychic, but he speaks to people who are beyond the veil, people that have passed over. And listening to him, I was feeling this sense of divine transmission coming into the room and feeling that the barriers that we have, such as death or impossible, that all of those things are things that are constructs of the mind. So Tim was taking the light of his consciousness and the light of the consciousness that was in the room and reaching past all of the self-imposed barriers, all of the names that we give things like death. Like death means that it's over. Death doesn't mean that it's over. Death is just a doorway into something new. And so that's part of what's going on here too, is that we are expanding our horizons. We are seeing that, yes, truly, we are, as Joel Goldsmith said, a parenthesis in eternity, that we are eternal beings of light. And then our next guest that's coming is Matt Kahn, who wrote this book that I'm teaching again. Matt Kahn, who wrote Whatever Arises, love that, 4 words that changed his life, and 4 words that we abide by here in the center. One of the things about Matt Kahn, I've been listening also to the CD version of this book, and when I listen to him, it's interesting because the words, I know that the words are true, and I have difficulty repeating them because they are true on a level that is beyond the intellect. I feel like Matt is giving a divine transmission or a divine download from something that is beyond our intellectual capacity. So I strongly encourage you to come and hear him when he's here on the 21st doing a 2-hour transmission, really, healing transmission. But you know, one of the reasons that I think he fits into this trio of Dr. Goswami and Tim Braun and then Matt Kahn rounding out the trio is that, you know, it's wonderful to know that we are beings of light. It's wonderful to know that we are radiance masquerading in form. But what do we do with that information? How do we participate with that information in a way that is meaningful not only for us, but meaningful for all beings? And that's what I think Matt Kahn offers, is that he offers very practical ways of becoming and being the love that we already are. You know, Richard Rohr said that we are love becoming love. Matt Kahn says very much the same thing, that we are radiant beings, and our purpose here is to love and be loved, to give and receive love, and to recognize that whatever arises in our life, whether it's something in the material world, some circumstance in our life, some condition or some feeling, as Hugh was reading about, everything arises so that it can be embraced with greater and greater love. So Matt Kahn is here to teach us how to really, truly love ourselves. And that's what we do in this church, is that we teach people to open up to the capacity and the ability to really, truly love ourselves. So I told you that I didn't like my first talk title, Radiance Masquerading in Form. I can't even remember it. That's usually a sign that it's the wrong talk title. And I was going to change it, and I want to change it to this. Why is it that after all these years, I still don't want to look in the stupid mirror and say, I love you? Why is it, after all these years, I still don't want to look in the stupid mirror and say, I love you? How many of you have heard of that practice? Many of you. How many of you have done it on a consistent basis? 4 of you, no. A little more than 4, I'm impressed. Because man, you know, I do it and I do it once and I'm like, okay, that's enough. I think many of us grew up in families where it was not considered normal to stand in front of the mirror and say, I love you, I love you, I love you. It was considered a little odd. I know that I first heard about this when I was studying acting in New York, and the acting teacher had us read You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, which is a starter science of mind book for many people. And she's done a wonderful job of bringing so many people into this organization. But one of the things that she said to do was to stand in front of the mirror and say, I love you. And I'm sure I've tried it, you know, a few times, maybe 3 times in 30 years. And in looking, I actually Googled it to see if other people thought it was hard too, and other people think it's difficult too. And I have to say, I do kind of love myself, but there's always more. There's always more to love. There's where you have this infinite capacity to love. And anytime we stretch past the barriers to love we have, it feels a little bit like tearing off a Band-Aid or something, right? So I looked at why it's difficult for me. And if you look in the mirror, often we're looking for flaws. We're accustomed to looking for flaws. We're seeing, how the hair is looking and how the wrinkles are shaping up, and if we have food in our teeth or what have you. And sometimes our gaze migrates south, and we start to notice that everything else is migrating south past a certain age. I've noticed also that when we look in the mirror, we engage in excessive comparison. So we compare ourselves to what we think we should look like, or at a certain point, what we used to look like, right? And that's not particularly comfortable. I think that the people who have this really down pat, though, the people who are really able to look in the mirror and enjoy the experience are babies. My nieces and nephews are starting to procreate now. They're starting to have babies. So I have a great niece and a great nephew. And the couple, my nephew and his wife, who have the great nephew, Shep is his name, short for Shepherd, so Shep, they own a publicity company, and they have to travel a lot. So Shep has been to a lot of the big film festivals. So he's walked the red carpet several times. He's 7 months old, by the way, so he doesn't really walk the red carpet. He's been to Sundance and Tribeca and South by Southwest. And this past month, he went to the Cannes Film Festival in France. So he had to get a passport at 7 months. Evidently, the passport photo process for a baby is quite epic. There are lots of rules that they have to follow, but ultimately, Sylvia, his mother, got his passport photo, and she shared it with me, and it's adorable. He looks positively debonair. And I thought about my own passport photo. And I'm not wearing an orange jumpsuit or anything, but I do look kind of like I'm wearing kind of prison-issue denim, and I have kind of this sullen look in my eye, like, please don't take my picture in this horrible light. And so I do have the look, rather, of an escaped convict in my passport picture. And I thought about Shep, my nephew, and he's under 1, and next time he gets a passport, he'll probably be 10, because they expire every 10 years, right? And probably by the age of 10, he will have developed that critical voice that will look at a picture and tell himself what's wrong with it. And you see how early we start with that. We start with that process. Does anybody here love their passport photo, by the way? Oh, Judy. Let's see it. Bring it in for show. No. No, we're good. Yeah. Well, she's a minister. Oh, so am I. Wait. Okay. But anyway, so that judging voice comes in pretty early, I think, and we start looking in the mirror and criticizing ourselves rather than saying, "I love you." One of the things that happens too is that in our subconscious mind we have trillions of thoughts every day, and the ones that seem real are the ones that are most familiar, and the ones that are most familiar are often the ones that are the most negative, because they grab our attention, right? So many of us are not used to receiving the words, "I love you," just by being. We feel that we have to earn our love somehow. We feel that we have to earn our approval through some type of merit. So if we show up in the mirror with messy hair and circles under our eyes, wearing prison-issue denim or whatever it is that we're looking at, we think, oh, I haven't earned this love. So we think that we don't deserve it. And I think that's really the core of the reason why it is so hard to look in the mirror sometimes and say, "I love you." Because it feels like we're lying because we don't deserve it. We believe that we don't deserve it. Now, you know what the lie is in that statement? It's not "I love you." The lie is, I don't deserve love simply by being. The truth is that we all deserve love simply by virtue of our existence. Everything in our life deserves love simply because of its existence. Every being, every rock, every tree, every grain of sand not only deserves love, it is love. Sometimes love shows up in very distressing disguises. I will give you that, and I will acknowledge that. But really, as Matt Kahn says, everything in our life shows up because it wants more love, not less. Everything in our life shows up because it deserves more love, not less. So one way that we can practice this is to actually get off our booties and look in the mirror and say, I love you, every day. One woman put a Post-it on her mirror to remind her, because it is something that we do every day, right? For the most part, we look in the mirror every day, right? Most of us do, for whatever reason. We could put a Post-it up there and just say, I love you. And we can suffer through the indignity of having to say those horrifying words to ourselves. And then we can start saying them like we mean it, even if we don't mean it. And then before long, I think those words take hold, and they start to have an impact on us, and our hearts start to open up more and more. Matt Kahn has another suggestion, a suggestion that he writes about in his book, and it's sort of a lengthy process, but I've encapsulated it into the way that I've been practicing it, and this, to me, feels really powerful. You know, we're not always sitting in front of a mirror, and we don't always have access to a mirror, but we certainly do have a range of feelings that come up in us constantly, a range of thoughts and feelings. And so one thing that we can do is to notice the thoughts and the feelings that we are having, and if they don't feel good, we can find a way to apply love to them. He suggests, first of all, noticing, and to think of that thought or that feeling like a little child who is tugging at your pants leg and saying, I need something from you, I need your love, I need your love, I need your love. If you can't relate to a child, think of a little puppy who is climbing on your lap saying, I need your love, licking your face, licking your face. Whatever is arising, whatever thought or whatever feeling is coming up, no matter how much you have labeled it as bad or something to be judged, that is something that needs your love. He then suggests that we relax our bodies. And he suggests that we relax our bodies by slowing down our breathing, not only breathing deeply, but breathing slowly. So allowing the feeling to be, doing our best to refrain from pushing it away, and breathing slowly while we're having the feeling. He then suggests that we locate where the feeling seems to be embedded in our bodies. Many people feel feelings in their stomach, in the pit of their stomach. Hi. Many people feel feelings in their heart. And he said, when in doubt, feel the feeling in your heart. And then just feel it and breathe into it. And recognize and remember that this feeling is that little child pulling at you, wanting more love, not less. And then he says to say, I love you, to the feeling. He says to make it like a lullaby, to say it over and over again for about 2 minutes. If you're feeling really creative, to sing it over and over again. You know that song we sang last week? I love you, 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 right? What do you think would happen if you practiced that every day? And what do you think would happen if you come to the end of the day and you're remembering this conversation that we're having right now and you say, dang it, I forgot to say I love you? What would happen if you forgave that as well and loved the part of yourself that forgot? Everything is love becoming love. Everything is love seeking love. Everything deserves more love, not less. What I think happens and what I've observed is that it does seem to change you on a physical level. Remember how I said that listening to Matt Kahn was like receiving a divine download? This is a way of having your own divine download, just by saying, I love you, 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 locating the feeling in your body and saying, I love you, dropping it into your heart and saying, I love you. That is your divine download. I love you is the language of the divine. So it changes you on a cellular level. As Hugh said in the reading, it starts to clear out some of that debris. And a while ago, I was talking about how the critical voice seems so much more familiar. If we keep saying, I love you, then that voice becomes much more familiar. And the familiar voice and the predominant voice is the voice that gets the attention. And when the voice that says, I love you, is getting the attention, then your whole life changes. Not only do you love yourself, but you love everybody, because everybody is you and you are everybody. You love everything. You start to attract others who are in that spaciousness of love, that because like attracts like. You have whatever you want because love is everything you want. So you start to attract that which your heart desires. It's a powerful practice. And I hope that we can support each other in doing it, because I'm already trying to think of reasons not to do it. A couple of objections I've heard to this practice, and then I'll close out. One of them is that we do tend to make it into a self-improvement project, and we like set a quota. I have to do 200 I love yous every day, and then we fail and we feel like a failure. The answer to that is what I just said. If you fail at doing your I love yous, love the part of you that feels like a failure. What I often say in this center is that the action of love is far more important than the object of love. Love is subject, verb, and object. The verb is the most important part, the act of loving, because that is what embodies love in us. So it doesn't matter what you love, just love something. Even love the part of yourself that feels like you have failed, or that you have failed to love even. The other thing that happens sometimes is that people, when I say love what is, they're like, I don't even like what is. I don't want what is to come in. And if I love it, it's going to give it carte blanche to come into my life and harass me, right? I hear you, because it is hard to love what is if it's something that you really feel like you don't like. I have a really simple story. I hope that this story translates into the bigger issues, but right now it's what I've got. And that is with my dog, Barty. Barty, who is, he's 7.5, and he's getting a little older, and as many of us know, our dogs do not live as long as they should. They should just be with us forever. And Barty's getting a little gray around the chops, and he also has this one tiny bright white spot on his head. Those of you who were at my Gourmets for God party all witnessed Barty's white spot on his head. And when I first saw that white spot, it's bright white. It looks like somebody dropped bleach on his head. And I couldn't stand to look at it. I was like Googling to see if they had, Grecian formula for dogs, for red-headed dogs. So I just wanted it to be, his hair is kind of Margaret's color, as a matter of fact. And I just wanted to make that go away, because I did not want to be reminded of his mortality. And then I decided that I was going to love that white spot. And I did. And similar to falling in love with a building by calling her grandma, I started calling Barty's white spot his bindi. A bindi is what Indian women wear in the center of their forehead. Barty's bindi is a little off-center, like Barty himself, so I sometimes sort of push it over. But in loving Barty's little bindi, it just gave me such a feeling of how precious his life is and how precious all life is. And I have to say that extrapolated into other areas in my life. One of the debates that sometimes goes on in our household, I forgot to tell you this, sorry, but you're going to come out looking good at the end, okay? Sometimes we are before the end, yeah. No, I don't have anything bad to say, really. We have, because it's just a difference of opinion. We have a difference of opinion about when we should eat dinner. I want to eat earlier, because I go to bed super early, and Hugh wants to be outside looking at the garden. And he's planted this beautiful garden, and he wants to just admire all of the flowers and everything, all the work that he's done. And I think through loving Barty's bindi, I moved from the place of, can we just eat already? I'm starving. I want to watch television. I can go to bed. I moved to the place of looking out the window at my sweet husband. See, I told you you were going to look good. Looking at all the flowers, and I think about this poem that I used to sing when I was a singer, and it's a song based on the poem "Loveliest of Trees," and it's about a guy who is 20 years old, and he says, "I've only got 50 more years," and he says, "To look at things in bloom, 50 years leave little room. So among the woodlands I will go to see the cherries hung with their snowy blossoms," And I think of that. I think that Hugh, he's how old are you? I was going to reveal your age. Everybody knows how old you are. He's 78. So I'm thinking he's got 22 more years to look at all those flowers, you know? And it's so heart expanding, and it makes me recognize in my life, Barty's Bindi, Hugh looking at the flowers, how precious life is, and what a great opportunity it is to be in this life. And we don't want to squander this opportunity by judging it or criticizing it or pushing it away. Everything is here to be loved, just as Hugh loves his flowers, as I love Barty's Bindi, as we love what we love, as you love what you love, as we love this beautiful church. It is all precious, and it is all here for us. And we recognize that it is here for us as we are willing to love it. So, I started this message by talking about all of the great things that we are doing in this center to create this wonderful container. And I am trusting that all of you are doing great things in your life. Even if they don't feel great right now, you are moving through them and you are doing something to create a beautiful container for your life force. And that your life force is growing and surging into something magnificent, and it will continue to grow and surge into something magnificent as you continue to grow in your capacity and your willingness to love yourself and to love others. It takes doing the practice, it takes doing the work. But really, seriously, I think we're really onto something here. I really do. You know, I always thought, when I started here about 13 years ago, and I was really, truly planning to be burnt out by year 13. I was, planning to be, done with ministry. And you're not laughing. That's a joke, okay? That's a joke. That's a joke. Because really, the opposite is happening. You know, I think the best is yet to be for this center. So what can we do in this world that needs our help so badly, this beautiful world where we are here learning about love, and when we are here creating this magnificent container, and that we are filling the container with this consciousness that knows absolutely, and I will remember at this time, that we are radiance masquerading in form. Together, we will let our radiance shine, and we will grow this place so beautifully and send the message around the world, and that message comes back and we receive it so that we can give it away again. That is the meaning of life, and it's all rooted in love, and yay, we all get to participate in that. So thank you for coming. Let's clap after this one, okay? All right. Thank you. Thank you. That was applause for all of us, because we're all really doing this incredible work together, and I'm just so honored to be the one with the microphone most of the time, and just to recognize all of the gifts that everybody brings to this incredible place. So in that beauty and in that awareness of how precious we are and how precious life is, let us reconnect with the knowing that truly there is only one perfect life, and that life is God's life. And that life is the life of all of us right here and right now. That life that is the ultimate reality, that is love, that is radiance, that is purity, that is grace, that is joy, that is peace, that is all of these things and so much more. All of these things belong to us. They are who we are. They belong to us, and we belong to this life. And so now we are able to live as if that truth is true. There's something within us that has resonated with this idea of loving the self and loving what is, and coming forth to be those beacons of radiance in this world that is so beautiful beyond appearances. May we be those that bring out the oneness in everything. May we be those that see the light in everything. May we be the beings that see the joy and the peace and the love in everything. And may we start by being willing to love ourselves, whether it's loving whatever comes up, whether it's practicing in the mirror, whatever it is, whatever feels most authentic. I know that the love that you are seeking is seeking you, and that we find it, because it is already found. And so I am so grateful for this mystical truth, so grateful for this beautiful spiritual center, so grateful for all of the good people and all of the beautiful hearts that are here today, and always those who are not here as well. I am grateful for them. I'm so grateful for this teaching that is so wonderful, that opens us up to greater possibilities for all beings. And I bless this teaching as I bless all paths to God. churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, ashrams, all paths, and with a heart that is filled with delight and filled with wonder and filled with love. I release these words into the mystical law, and together we say, and so it is.
I am amazing. How about that? I am magnetic, and that's where it at. I am the creator of all that I see. That's you, that's me. The collective we. You are perfection, a blessing divine. We are connected. I'm yours and you're mine. There is no separation. I am God expressing in this fleshy disguise. And isn't it odd to think otherwise? Isn't it odd? Isn't it odd to think otherwise? I am the scent of the flowers in spring. I am the heart of the song that you sing. And I'm the warmth from the sun in the sky. All this am I. I gave you breath, but I gave you much more. Look at this playground we've come to explore. There is no separation. I am God expressing in this fleshy disguise. And isn't it odd to think otherwise? If you could see what I see, you would not doubt your worth or your beauty. Be at peace, there's no one keeping score. No stick we measure by. There is nothing that you have to do, only what you long to try. And you might start enjoying your life for a while. Following your heart is what makes me smile. There is no separation. I am God expressing in this fleshy disguise. And isn't it odd to think otherwise? Isn't it odd? Isn't it odd to think otherwise? I am God expressing in this fleshy disguise. And isn't it odd? Said, isn't it odd? Isn't it odd to think otherwise?